This is Career Composer. I'm Erin, and I'm helping you, professionals under 30, navigate your careers with a music-themed twist. I'm giving you the job search and career advice you need to get that job, but we'll also talk about music, how to balance our personal and professional lives, and figure out what we're meant to do. Ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to have you here. If we haven't met before, my name is Erin. I'm a full-time career coach at a top university in Washington, D.C. And today we are talking about one of my favorite interviewing techniques. You must have heard it before. It's called the STARR method, which is really the best way to answer behavioral interview questions. In our Prelude today, I gave you all a little setup, and I told you a tip that might help with getting better at using the STARR method in the moment, because I know for a lot of us, we kind of feel like we practice what to say in these interviewing techniques, and we think we do great when we're preparing, but then when we get to the interview, it kind of feels like we lose some of it, right? We forget some things. And so that's what we talk about in the Prelude. At the end of today's episode, you are going to walk away feeling like using the STARR method is so easy. And it's also just going to feel like a no-brainer to use in your next interview. And it will become a part of your interviewing strategy and repertoire. So with that, first, let's talk about interviews and why we use the STARR method and what is a behavioral interview anyway. So what is a behavioral interview and why do employers use them? A behavioral interview is used to assess a candidate's past performance to predict how they will behave or perform in the future at their company in this role. Past performance predicts future success. Keep that in your mind. Remember that. That's why an employer wants to know what you've done in the past to know how you're going to act and how that translates to the future and if you'll be successful at their company. So past performance predicts future success. What is the STARR method and why do we use it for behavioral interview questions? All the STARR method is an acronym that ensures that you are answering the interview question to the fullest, making the most of this time you have to answer this question, and you are having the greatest impact with your answer. You can use the STARR method to answer any behavioral interview question, like, tell us about a time when you went above and beyond to solve a problem. Tell us about a time when you worked in a team and what role you played. Tell us about a time when you failed, your greatest accomplishment. Give an example of a time when you had to teach yourself something you didn't know. Give an example of a time when you took initiative. Tell us about when you had to think outside the box, when you experienced workplace conflict, when you faced an ethical dilemma, when you had to juggle multiple projects and deadlines at once. The list goes on and on. These questions are endless, but you'll find that a lot of them are really asking the same thing, and they're just trying to see how you respond and how you have behaved in past scenarios. This is the STARR method. The STARR method acronym is STAR, and there's a second R that most people don't know about or don't remember. S stands for situation. T stands for task. A stands for action. The first R stands for result. And the second R stands for reflection. Do not forget about the reflection, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So when you talk about the situation, all you're doing is, for your interviewer who doesn't know you, they've never heard about the situation you're about to share, you're kind of setting the stage for your interview answer. If they're asking you to tell them about a time when you did X, Y, Z, you kind of want to paint the picture of the past role and what you were doing in that role. So that's the situation. The task is what you were doing in that role. The action is what you did, the action that you had to take. And the result is, what was the impact of what you did? What happened as a result of your action? And then reflection, this is where you talk about either what you learned or how this situation applies to this role that you're interviewing for at this company. And what that does is it allows the interviewer to visualize you in this role. You want the employer to make the direct connection to how the situation and how you behave fits into this role. You always want to spell it out for them. And the more you listen to Career Composer, the more you'll hear me tell you that. Don't assume the interviewer is going to put two and two together. You want to spell it out for them. Now, I know that the STARR, 5 letters in that acronym, is kind of overwhelming and hard to think about and remember in an interview. So if you take anything from this episode, remember this. Instead of thinking about those 5 letters, there's just 3 things that you have to do.
tell the interviewer what happened, what you did, and what you learned. Okay? What happened, what you did, what you learned. You can do it. So easy. Now, I want to give you a couple examples of how I have used the STARR method in the past. These are real interview examples that I have used at one point or another. I also want to try and see if I can recruit a few friends to give me their examples. So if you hear more examples, my friends were brave enough to come on this podcast and give you examples. But if they don't, these two examples that I'm going to give you should be enough to demonstrate how you can use the STARR method. So make sure you watch in my answers. Did I use what happened, what I did, what I learned? Did I go through situation, task, action, result, and reflection? Let me know in the comments below. All right, putting my interviewer hat on. Erin, it's great to be with you today. Thank you again for telling us about yourself and sharing all that you shared thus far. Can you please tell us about a time when you had to learn something new that you didn't know before? Okay. Absolutely. That's a great question. A time when I had to learn something new that I didn't know before was when I was at my undergraduate institution, Penn State University Park, which I loved going to Penn State. I'm so happy that I received my education from that school. Outside of my classes, I was really involved in music. I'm a huge music nerd. It's a passion of mine. And I was selected to be the music director for a musical theater group in my first year of school at Penn State. As the music and vocal director, I had to teach the vocalists their lines, and I also had to direct and conduct the pit orchestra, which I had never done before. So I took it upon myself to teach myself this new skill by watching YouTube videos, and I also went over to the Penn State University School of Music and met with faculty there and other students who were pursuing conducting in their master's degrees to learn how I could conduct from them. And I'm happy to report that I was able to conduct the pit orchestra, and that show actually ended up winning Best Show of the Spring Season for all of the musical theater groups at Penn State, which I was really proud of and so excited that I was able to teach myself a new skill that I didn't know. What I learned from that is that with all of this new technology at our fingertips and with other experts who we can utilize as resources, there's always a way to teach myself and others a new skill that might not be a part of my repertoire. And one of the reasons why I was so interested in this role is because I know that I will be a part of a large team of people with many diverse skill sets and experiences that they bring to your team. And I'm so excited about the opportunity to learn from them, as well as share my strengths and expertise so they can learn from me too. I'm extremely collaborative, and I will definitely ask questions if I don't know how to do something. I will use all of this new technology like generative AI and YouTube to go teach myself a new skill. I'm also a fan of LinkedIn Learning. And so it's actually not just something that I can do, but something that I enjoy is improving myself and learning new skills. And that is a time when I had to teach myself something that I didn't know before. Nailed it. Okay. Next one. Erin, tell us about a time when you had to be adaptable. Absolutely. So in my previous role, I worked for a state university in Massachusetts, Salem State University, and I was the career services coordinator there. And my primary job duty was to plan and execute all career-related events for the university, from the small-scale student employment fair to the large-scale job and internship fair, where we had more than 230 campus recruiters coming to hire our students and more than 400 students attending this fair. One of the events that I was in charge of leading was the Career Closet event, which was actually covered on WBZ Radio and Channel 7 News, which I got to speak about on, and that was really exciting opportunity. But at this event, I wanted to put my own spin on it. It was an event where students across the university could shop from 2,300 new and used professional attire items so they could attend our upcoming job and internship fair and look the part. So I invited a few of our employer partners to come to speak with students at the Career Closet event to share how they could use these new professional attire items to show up looking their best at the upcoming job and internship fair. However, students were way more focused on shopping and getting these free professional attire items than they were excited about talking to these employers. So the employers kind of had a slow day and might have wondered what were they getting out of this experience with such low student interaction. So one other thing that I pride myself on is my ability to build and maintain relationships, especially critical relationships with our employer partners. And so to appease them after this slower day of student interaction, I said at our upcoming job and internship fair, I'm going to make sure that you are sitting at the first 5 to 10 employer tables. So that way you are the first employer students see when they walk into this fair. And that ensured that at the upcoming fair, they were very happy and excited because they got a ton more student interaction than they might have even gotten before at their previous tables where they were assigned at that fair. And so I was really proud of my ability to think quickly in that situation, to build and continue to maintain our important relationships. I will apply that to this role by continuing to think ahead and limit the amount of disruptions or issues that arise, which I'm really proud of my ability to do. But I'm also quick to think on my feet. And if an issue does arise in this role, I will continue to stay calm and act quickly to come up with a solution. And that is a time when I had to be adaptable, flexible, and think on my feet. All right, everyone, in the comments below, please let me know if I use the STAR method in those examples, and if this helped you think of examples that you could use in an interview when using the STAR method for yourself. I promise the more you use this method, the easier it will become, and I'm confident that all of you will become professionals at using this method and take your interviews to the next level. As always, thank you so much for listening. I'm so happy you're here, and I will see you in the next episode 2 weeks from now. Have a great day. Okay, one last thing that I actually forgot to mention is that you might have noticed that out of my 2 answer examples that I gave today, the first one was from when I was a first-year student at my undergraduate institution. Now, I wouldn't use that example now because I've been out of college for more than 3 years, which is absolutely insane. But at the time I was applying to my first job and I was a 4th-year student, I was a senior in college, I was using that example. And it's also okay that that example was about an extracurricular activity and not a professional experience. If you're someone who hasn't had a lot of work experience yet, maybe not even have had an internship, think about times when you volunteered or you did something outside of school. Maybe you had a part-time job. Whatever you did, just think about all the different things that you've done and see what you can pull from those experiences to use the STAR method and give concrete examples. Because while that example of me being a music director was not in any way, shape, or form related to the full-time position that I have now, or it wasn't even related to the position I had at the time when I was applying for jobs as a senior in college, it didn't matter because, first of all, it showed the employer more about me and who I am as a person, even outside of work. And it still gave them insight into how I respond to situations and go the extra mile to teach myself something new. So if you're worried about not having enough professional experience to draw from when thinking about examples for the STAR method, don't worry. I promise you, you have experiences you can talk about. You just do. And I've heard a lot of people say, "What are you talking about, Erin? I have nothing to say." It's not true. You got this. You can do it. So I just wanted to pop back on and share that. Right now, I wouldn't share any past experience that was more than 3 years ago personally. But at the time when I was a senior in college, that was 3 years ago. Yeah. So just wanted to pop back on, give you another helpful tip. Again, you got this and have a great day. Bye.
I hope you found today's episode helpful. Career Composer will be back with a new episode every other Monday. And if today's topic really resonated with you, I hope you'll consider leaving a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Reviews will really help this podcast grow so I can keep bringing you the career content that you want. You can also email me at careercomposerpodcast@gmail.com with feedback or questions because I want to give you the career advice that you actually want to hear. That's all for now. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time and have a great day.